Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and this episode might be a little bit dull for people who aren't interested in this stuff, so just be warned, this is something that's sort of a personal interest of mine. I used to do a lot of YouTube videos and podcasts on just things I was doing and things that interested me, and so this is a return to that format. Today I'm talking about metronomes. I'm assuming most people probably know what a metronome is, but just in case you don't, it's basically a timekeeping tool that musicians use. I've been playing guitar since I was about 13 or 12, and one of the first things that you do when you pick up the guitar and start taking lessons, especially if you're like me and your rhythm's not so great, is the instructor will tell you to get a metronome. And back when I was learning, the metronomes were mechanical. And there's something about the mechanical metronomes I really like. I recently picked up the guitar again. I played very seriously for a long time, and then it became more something I just, played just to relax at the end of the day without much serious intention. And so I'm going back and trying to fill in some of the gaps that I had, but also I'm finding that I have to repave some of the old roads. One of them being rhythm. If you're just pulling out the guitar and strumming and playing a little bit here or there, when you sit down and try to do something more complicated, you find that there's a little bit of ring rust. And so I'm trying to get my rhythm back, and I decided to start using metronomes again at the very basic level that you use them at, just to sort of recalibrate. So you can use them for all sorts of things, but the sort of foundational technique is you set a time, and then you play to the note. So the metronome keeps a beat for you, and you play to the note, and then you can also increase the divisions of the note. So you can start playing like a quarter note, or then going to like an eighth note or a 16th note, but doing it in time with the metronome. And so today a lot of them are apps, or they even have little digital devices. And I tried both, and I just didn't, I don't know, they felt so ephemeral to me. It might just be that I'm just, nostalgic for the old metronome, but I just found myself not enjoying the practice with them, and I felt like I wasn't gaining as much somehow. I think there's something about the physical metronome and that deep click that you get that I don't know. I find the same thing with apps for a variety of things. I have an app for boxing rounds that is just never the same for me as the old. They have timekeeping devices in boxing too that keep track of the rounds for when you're training, and I find that the app just doesn't quite, even though it sounds exactly the same, it's not real. And so this is real, and you can hear it. I'm holding the metronome now, and they kind of look like they're like triangular, almost like a really tall pyramid, and they have you can look it up online, but basically they wind up. So as you can hear, you wind it up, which I think is great because you don't have to plug them in, you don't have to use batteries. I really like that they're gear based like this. It adds to that whole experience. They have a little switch on the side that lets you basically set like the count. Like is it going to be 3/4, 4/4, that kind of thing. And then this one has a little plastic thing that I got to take off. So I'm going to take the plastic protective coating off. There's there's like a pendulum, and the pendulum has this weight in the middle of it that you can slide up or down that lets you set the tempo. So you can slide it up and you can slide it down. And those, I think down goes higher in tempo if I remember. So, down, I can get up to 208 beats per minute or something. And I think at the bottom, on the top, is 40 beats per minute, something like that. And this one comes with a little thing on the bottom. So I pull that out, and that's like a lock, so that the pendulum doesn't swing unless you've pulled out this little plastic component. And I should say, I think I might have actually damaged this one the other night trying to move the pendulum without taking that out, but it still seems to be working fine. And so this is set to 4, and so what it's going to do is I'm just going to pull the pendulum back, and then it'll start clicking. and it's going to ring on the first beat, and then it'll give us 3 more beats, then it'll ring when the measure starts again. So that's how these function. They're very simple. There's not a whole lot to them, and I think it's the simplicity that I really like about them. So this is what it sounds like. And that, I think, is at allegro. So that's at about 132 beats per minute. And so, I mean, I could do this all day, obviously. I was actually going to play my guitar in time with it as this very simple exercise to illustrate the point, but it just was too difficult to... I have to plug into the amp so that it can be heard, and so I don't think people particularly want to hear me play. But... if I end up, at some point I'm going to try to pick up like a classical mini, like a little mini classical guitar. And if I do that, then that would be much easier to sort of demonstrate this with. So I might down the road do something like that. And just to give you a sense of different time signature, here's what 3/4 would sound like in the same tempo. And just to really mix things up, we'll give it at 6. So, and there's a bunch of, there's like 5 settings on here. And so, again, I mean, the way that these are used is, you use them to sort of improve your sense of the beat, the sense of the pulse. And some people even sleep with them. Like some people will run metronomes while they're sleeping to improve their rhythm. I think there's something to that. I've never actually done that, so I can't say. Maybe I should try, but I'm afraid it'll keep me up. Because, I mean, it'd be like having the loudest mechanical clock going the whole night. But I do find that just, even if you're not playing to it, just listening to it really is helpful. And I can feel like I can definitely see like when I brought the metronome out and I started using it again, and again this one's a pretty cheap one. You can probably get this one for like $20, but they span. You could get a very expensive, nice, really collecting metronomes could definitely become something if you were interested in it, because they I don't know, they're very unique and interesting. But I found that when I brought it out and played to it, I immediately saw where my rhythm was bad. I immediately, when I try to do like a tremolo, that's where I really find this useful, because like tremolo is that technique where you just kind of very quickly playing the note. You're like doing like just. I can't really demonstrate it here without a guitar, but it's sort of that classic rapid fire picking, and it's very easy to do that, but it's very hard to do that in time. I can rapid fire pick pretty well, but I can't do it in time as well as I should be able to do, especially for someone who's been playing as long as I have, and a lot of that is just I've neglected rhythm. It hasn't been important to me for a long time. Back when I was in a band and I had a drummer and all that, it was much more important because you had to be in sync with everybody. But when you're just pulling out the guitar and playing at night, nobody's going to notice if you're off rhythm, and eventually you start to slide. So I immediately noticed that, and I had to basically go back to playing things much slower just to get the rhythm back up. And so you kind of have to work. It's like a lot of other things. You have to kind of go back to the foundational elements and improve on them. And I think again, the big thing, there's a concept in martial arts. It's sometimes called different things, but it's usually something along the lines of child mind. And the idea is, when you go in to learn something, whether you're going to a new gym from an old gym or you're going to your regular gym that you've been to forever, you always want to approach anything like you're completely new to the process. You don't want, when you bring in that old baggage of feeling like you're an experienced, accomplished person, that can hinder you sometimes. Not that you shouldn't also use your experience and knowledge, just that you need to still retain that ability to be taught as if you didn't know anything, so that you can see where you need to improve. Because so in guitar playing, you get to a point where you get really confident and you don't see your own flaws, and there's like a reluctance to be forced to sort of do things again at the basic level, because you've been playing for 10 years. Why would you need to do to go back to this remedial lesson? But again, it's really useful. It's really important, and I've tried to always apply that concept to anything I do. It's very it's very useful. I think when you can see your own flaws with clarity, you can then improve on them. And so that's what the metronome, at least for me, that's what I'm using this metronome for. And again, I just love that they have that mechanical quality to them. They're really, I mean, even if you don't play music, I'd almost say they're worth buying just because they're so fun just to kind of mess around with. But if you're a musician, you definitely should consider it. I strongly, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking off the cuff now, and I don't know anything that deep about music theory and all that. I didn't go to school for music. I took lessons and I played in bands, but I don't want you to think that like I'm basing any of this off of research that people have done about how effective metronome training is. But I suspect that you're much better off with one of these kinds of metronomes than with the apps or with the digital devices. And I don't know why. I just know I noticed a big difference, and I feel like this being a physical thing where all of the physical parts are producing that sound, I immediately connected to this metronome in a way that I didn't to the metronome on my app. And I think it's because there's an actual pendulum on this that's going back and forth, and I can feel the movement of the pendulum almost. And that helps get me in the rhythm. On the app, I don't have that. It's simulating that, but there's not an actual pendulum going back and forth. So again, I don't know. I could be wrong. But I personally noticed that, and again, I'm not blind to that could potentially be nostalgia. If anybody out there listening knows more about music theory than I do and wants to weigh in, definitely weigh in, because I'm very interested right now in improving my rhythm, and I'd be curious if there are. I mean, I imagine there must be research papers on this subject. So if somebody's examined that, I'd be curious to know about it. And I should say, what's the brand that I got here? I don't know. All it says is made in China on the bottom. I don't have the package anymore. I should know the brand, but I'm not one of these people that was very into all the gear. So it just looked like a nice metronome, and I got it. And it was fairly affordable. Again, it was like $20 or something. I don't think you really need to spend more than that. I mean, if you want to, you can. Some of them do look nice, but I was quite satisfied with this one. But yeah, so and again, it's funny because they haven't really, this is so similar to like what they were like when I was learning. They really haven't changed all that much. And I think that's one of the aspects about this that I really like. So again, I know a lot of people might not really care about metronomes on this channel. Again, I do just sometimes talk about other topics that interest me. I have a lot of other interests aside from gaming and aside from martial arts films, and they occasionally make their way onto the channel. So I know last year I was doing stuff on weightlifting and things like that. So I'll probably have more on this topic in the future. You might have saw that I had posted a small recording, a very bad recording, I should say, of me playing something. And I don't quite know. I'm not very good with all the music tech, so hopefully I can, if I do anything like that again in the future, I can get it. I can get the sound better, and hopefully my rhythm will be much better the next time I do something like that. And I probably need to get new strings. Actually, the strings on that guitar that I was playing on that recording was about. I don't think I've changed those strings in over a year. And that's not usually a good habit to get into, but I'm incredibly lazy, and I'm especially when it comes to restringing instruments. I really hate to restring things, and I'm not one of these, like a lot of people, most of the people that I played music with. I have a lot of members of my family who play music, or in bands, and most of them play guitar or something like that, and almost all of them, they got really into sort of the technical side of the guitar, and you know, knowing how to like like, you know, open it up, you know, and put it back together and stuff like that. I just never got into that. I'm really lazy when it comes to the, I guess, the shop and the tech side of things. But I'm in awe of people that can do it. But I'm definitely not like, you know, like one of my favorite guitar players is Brian May, and I'm definitely not anywhere near his league when it comes to being a master of the technical side of the instrument. And by technical side, I mean like the literal tech, like the amps and the way sound works and all that. So all right, so I've gone on for too long. I will let you go. If you didn't catch it, we have a discussion on Torchwood with me and Adam from the other day. Tomorrow we're going to be doing The Enchantress, which is a sort of a early 80s Choyuan movie that's it's kind of got a lot of horror elements to it. It's really interesting, and it's kind of obscure. I don't think a lot of people know this movie, but it's one of my favorites from this era, and it's just kind of got a lot of cool little things going on in it, and it takes a lot of chances, because again, a lot of these, with these early 80s Shaw Brothers, a lot of them they can be hit or miss, because they're willing to try almost anything, and so this one was pretty effective, I thought. So all right, I will let you go, and I will talk to you later.